morning, Nigeria. I am Samson Balogun, and this is Daybreak Live on Dominion Television, Ibadan. We begin with a development that had a new layer of internal party dynamics. A chieftain of the ADC, Bala, says that he was misled and has denied backing what is being described as a leadership takeover involving Senator David Mark in his party. What exactly happened behind the scenes? Was this a miscommunication, a political miscalculation, or evidence of deeper divisions within party ranks? And what does it tell us about internal democracy within political parties? That is our Daybreak gist this morning.
Right.
We'll also bring you reports about so many things, weather report, and shortly after, Daybreak News with the major developments shaping the day this morning.
Absolutely. And Amandolu we then turn to the newspaper headlines and analysis this morning. And this morning's front pages reflect a mix of political realignment, governance debate, and public reaction. We take a closer look at the stories and perspectives behind them with our analyst Oluwole Oluwaseun this morning. All
right. At the top of the hour, our big story asks fundamental question about Nigeria's democratic structure. Strong institutions or strong parties? What truly sustains Nigeria's democracy? Is this strength of a democracy defined by its institution or by the dominance of or discipline of its political parties? And in Nigeria's case, where should the balance lie? Join us for that conversation as Honorable Molaja Olaoye, an APC chieftain, joins us this morning.
And before we close the program today, Trend Watch, we highlight the stories and conversations gaining traction across the country.
And it's a morning of perspective and critical thinking on this show.
So let's begin this morning.
And we shall begin.
A beautiful morning to you, Samson, this morning.
Top of the morning to you. I know, it's really nice to be back here.
I mean, it's always a pleasure.
The stories and headlines are not slowing down. And we'll talk about Nofio Bala, who happens to be one of the chieftains of the ADC, whose faction of the party is said to be pushed out by the David Mark-led faction of the party. He spoke a lot about the takeover. And he said, look, I was only intrigued to be at that particular gathering. And what was said was not what was actually done. He never knew that his principal at that time, who was Arafun Wosu, was going to resign on that ground. And he was shocked that he resigned and then handed over the party to, the David Mark-led side of the ADC, who is now, for now, they are in court about who takes the soul of the party. He also said some of them, especially the chairman Northwest, chairman Northeast, who happened to be a vice chairman or national vice chairman of the party, were not carried along about what was going to happen at that particular event. But the point is, as of now, the only person that has been vocal about the sudden takeover of the ADC is Nofio Bala. And where are the rest? That's a very big question, because if you were not carried along, then there should be some other people, vice chairman, Southwest, Northeast, Southeast, South-South. They should also be coming out to make the same claim just like Nofio Bala is making. But then some people have also made that assertion that Nofio Bala is being sponsored just to make sure that the party has an internal conflict before the general election. That's a very big question this morning.
I mean, it's different things. I started thinking about this morning, Samson. I was thinking that Nigeria's situation, especially the polity in the Nigerian state, is so complex. It's really complex, really, if you have to think about it. I started and I was thinking, in the lines of cognitive reasoning, or should we say logical reasoning, there are different lines of thoughts that you can, process a thought. For example, you can be logical, and logic would also involve objectivity. You can also have maybe an emotional appeal. There are different ways of persuasion, ethical appeal, and a lot of appeals, right? And I was thinking about the Nigerian polity, and one thing came to mind, that there's another lens from which we can look at things in Nigeria, especially when it comes to the politics in Nigeria, and that's something called Nigerian politics. And I said this because if you can understand things logically and objectively in Nigeria, it is not enough, because there are issues when they are presented on the table. If you look at it or view it from the standpoint of logic, you will miss out. If you try to look at the ethics of maybe what should be obtainable in the country, you will miss out. The only way you can see it well is to look at it politically. Because I think it's not just a language in the country, it's also a way of life, it's a line of thought, it's a viewpoint. And sometimes, because if you have to, many issues that are in Nigeria now, if you table it, you discover that to look at it logically would mean that you will miss out. If you are logical and objective and trying to balance out empirically, you will still miss out, because it is, you will not find anything to hold on to in your logic, in your logical approach to the Nigerian polity. And this scares me a lot. And that's why a lot of persons are really backing out of this. A lot of youth really do not want to talk about the Nigerian politics, because it's something that is almost mystical in their eyes, and you will not blame them, because one story comes today and then you have a logical effect to it, and another comes the next day, and you can't find the logic again, because somebody has come out to say something else that has, disproved your logic, and you wonder. I just wanted to speak to this Bala issue, especially the ADC, a party that is supposed to be, gathering up momentum, that some people are expecting to do something come 2027. It's already having internal crisis. This is not just the first time. They've been having it for a while now. And if you have to think about the internal democracy and what the data says, I was looking at the data this morning, I saw that Nigeria-wide indicators represent that only approximately 30% of party primaries are internally competitive. And then over 60% of them involve in position or elite consensus decisions. And you see, so we have someone joining a party, and then you want to wonder, this person, is it going to rise through the ranks and files? Is it going to rise through the procedural stages in this to get to the position of authority? But it's not the same. Usually, it's always in position. You see a big wig comes to the party, and instead of the person maybe to learn the tenets of the party, or if there's anything like that ideologically, maybe to sit down for a while and understand the system of the party, the person becomes automatically the leader of the party, and you wonder, how is this supposed to be? And that's where, I think it's, we've overflogged it, and I don't want to beat a dead horse again. But I will speak to the issue that the ideological composition of our political parties is questionable in a lot of ways. And you want to say, if someone comes, because according to Bala, what he said was that, it was not briefed. He didn't know, he thought it was just like an alignment kind of meeting. He didn't know it was a position where his boss now in the party, Rafumosu, would have to say, okay, so you want to resign. And he was surprised to see, and see, if he's a politician and he's saying that, we can say maybe he's trying to, maybe just trying to find a way to say it politically. But I'm so sure he was just as astounded as every other person based on what he said. And you can imagine what this can mean for political parties in this situation. And I was trying to imagine that one of the things that actually happened was, when he said he was tricked into attending what he thought was a coalition meeting that later became a leadership handover. And David Mark, and so this has caused a lot of issues, especially for the party now. After David Mark was announced as a leader in the party, Bala was saying he had no prior consent, and he only realized mid-event that leadership had changed. And then they began to, it began to ask questions. And then you also want to see why we have institutional fallout in our party structures and party lines. You see, multiple factions emerging. The Mark-led bloc is there. The Bala-led block is there, and then maybe Kachiko aligned block is also something to think about. And if you have to look at this, that is not all there is to it. The Independent National Electoral Commission also has its own stake in this, because they have refused to recognize the Mark-led leadership, and they have suspended monitoring of party activities pending court ruling. So some have even said the INEC should not be involved in internal party and politics, and sometimes I think it's just the way to go, especially with the system we are working with now. But the miscommunication is also something to talk about. At the surface level, how can Bala, who is supposed to be someone in one of the highest ranking in the party, not know about what was about to happen in the party? And sometimes they say politicians play politics on each other, and this is exactly the case for Bala. The miscommunication, nobody was, you can see there's information asymmetry. They are in disharmony as to what is supposed to happen in the party. And so this is really a possible elite manipulation of internal processes that has affected the structure of the party, if there is any. And I was going to also say that because major leadership succession should happen in political parties by requiring a formal notice. One, they must involve the NEC, the National Executive Committee, or the National Working Committee, whatever they call in their party, must have that ratification as well. And again, of course, it must be documented and procedurally accepted by the party. So I wonder, if someone is making a claim for a party, I wonder what structure has been in place before now. Because if I come and I say that, okay, this is what we want to do going forward, I think we should have what they call a Congress. Parties have Congress. They have conventions, right? They have where they sit.
They just had one in ADC.
You know, is that what you call the Congress? You know,
Well,
the
you
party,
might,
the
you might
party
just
line
liken
is,
that to what happened in Ibadan. That's also given the PDP this kind of headache they have it right now. You see, the challenge is way beyond congresses and conventions. Okay, you cannot have a successful convention or a congress when everyone in the party are not on the same page. So you are still creating more problem. And the saddest thing about all of this is that Nigerian politicians do not learn from past mistakes. There are precedences to all of this. I will cite an instance. APC had an issue a few years ago, and that happened in, I think that was in Zamfara. So, INEC originally accepted. You see, when these things happen, people would blame INEC for the end result, but they don't blame the people who created the problem in the first place, because INEC will be dragged into litigations that really do not concern them. Okay, on a good day, whatever is happening within the ADC, yes, they just created more problems by going ahead with the convention without doing what INEC told them to do in the first place. They said return back to the status quo. Ab initio, what was the party structure looking like? And after that, now conduct a congress, right, in your respective local government and of course your state, and then go to national level, and then hand over to whoever you want to hand over to. But hey, they did not do that. What they did was, David Mark and Rauf Aregbesola and some other people, they were still there. They conducted the convention, congresses across all 36 local governments in Nigeria, including the FCT, and then they are back on the same page, where they left it off in the first place. So, INEC might likely not recognize this convention, just like they did to that of the PDP that happened in Ibadan. Because eventually, some people within the party will now drag INEC to court and say, look, this convention, we do not recognize it because we were not carried along. As the stakeholders, I mean, nobody conducts, who babs your head in your absence? Nobody does that. So, what it means that you will now go back to what you said you will not do in the first place. And now, as it stands, the convention has gone ahead. There is a chance and likelihood that INEC will eventually not recognize. In fact, they were not there, so it means that they did not recognize.
Imagine the waste from the party's angle. How much money was
spent into all of this? Yeah. Now, they have spent money. They have conducted their congresses and convention. And as it stands, going to the next election, they will not be recognized. And people will now blame INEC for anything that happens after that. Do not forget that APC has seen their fair share of this kind of situation before. I will cite two instances. One happened in Zamfara, where everyone that won an election under the banner of the APC the mandate was taken away from them and given to PDP in that state. Away from there, it happened. You see, when litigations happen and you drag INEC into all of this, what it means is that INEC will have to take decisions they really do not have business taking. Because going to court to settle what you could have settled within your political party says that you are giving INEC headache. One, you are expanding the timeline or the time frame with which INEC has to work. And, well, as at now, there is time frame for everything. There's a calendar. If you have not achieved what you should achieve before a particular period of time, you will not blame anybody for not doing what you should have done. Now, I mentioned the case of Zamfara. INEC is constitutionally required to monitor party primaries, but not to run them. Okay, they are just there to say, are you practicing internal democracy in your political party? So when disputes arise, INEC gets dragged into litigations over candidate legitimacy, which originally should not be INEC's headache. Because you must have done your due diligence within your political party, and it is your job to now come and tell INEC that, look, we have gone through all the right processes as you monitored. Okay? This is the candidate that we have chosen for this position eventually. It may also force to exclude candidates if due process isn't followed. So if you now get to your polling unit on a particular, on election day, and your candidate is not on the ballot, or your political party is not on the ballot in that particular jurisdiction, you will blame INEC. But you did not do the right thing in the first place. Another problem is electoral timetable becomes unstable due to court orders. Okay, for example, INEC recognizes a particular candidate, they have gone into the election, he's been sworn in, and then after a few months, you say you have gotten your mandate back from Supreme Court, because all of these cases go as high as Supreme Court. And once you get that, you will now go back and start from day one in office. It's not like you are starting where that person stopped. You are starting from day one. Look at the regular timetables we have now. Ekiti will have their own election very soon. Osun will do the same. Whereas the general election is still next year. Okay, so the timetables will not. There is no way Every state now, some of the states, they do not belong to the same electoral period where everyone conducts a gubernatorial election in Nigeria, or where state of House of Assembly elections are being conducted. In fact, there is no clear timetable of when INEC of OCEC or other state electoral commissions conduct local government elections. So you can just decide that I don't want to conduct elections in the next 3 years, and nobody will hold you responsible. But because you want to wreak havoc, you want to create problems for the next political party coming to power, or maybe the next candidate, you now run an election that is not different from selection. And then you put local government chairman there, and when that one comes, he sends them packing. It happened under Governor Isiaq Abiola Ajimobi. He conducted an election because there were court cases, pending court cases before the Alao Akala administration left office. And then when he conducted the election, Seyi Makinde came on board, discharged all of them. Eventually, they went as high as Supreme Court, and they said, look, you have to compensate us. And then, if he paid that money, do not forget that it was waste of resources, because as at that time, he was also paying his own legitimate local government chairman. Now, he's going ahead to conduct another election by December. And if he does that, it means that whoever comes on board might likely say, look, because I don't belong to your political party, I did not conduct this election, you all have to go. Now, they will pay 2 local government chairmen for doing the same thing, while some people are home doing nothing, some people are at work doing something. But because they were duly elected, it's their constitutional right to be paid. So someone will waste taxpayers' money just because he wants to make sure that his own people are in charge. Someone will conduct an election that really should not be conducted in the first place just because he wants to put problem in office for the next governor that is coming to office. Now, the case of Zamfara and that of Bayelsa. What happened in Bayelsa that made Diri the current governor in Bayelsa was because the deputy, or I think that was David Leon, his deputy had an issue with certification. When it comes to names, how his name was being written and arranged. And then the court said, look, you cannot be, because we don't even know if your certificate belongs to you. Initially, we were saying, look, you cannot do that to me because he's my deputy, we can easily change them. But they said, you had a joint ticket. So whatever happens to him, happens to you. They were left. In fact, he was already practicing how to be a governor, a day to his own inauguration. And then they said, look, you cannot be governor. And they won the election. Now, they have Diri there. Diri is almost spending 8 years in office. And you have that case of Zamfara, where everyone that won an election under the banner of the APC, they were sent packing. And then another set of people, some of them did not even spend a dime contesting for their election. But then they found themselves in office. The problem is, why do we drag INEC into any of our problems? Last night, there was a headline that broke that forensic analysis cleared Amokwetun of any wrongdoing when it comes to posting whatever comment they say he posted, that he did not do it. Now, people will still not believe because it's not coming from anybody aside from people in government. But the problem now is, do we trust our own system to work effectively? Does the important cogs in this machine that run as democracy in Nigeria, how properly placed is it? Do we place huge trust in all of them? Because if everything that happens is INEC. Well, have you treated the problem within your own political party? This is ADC. What should have been done in the first place has not been done. You have not taken care of the problem. You are treating the symptoms. Nobody gets well doing that. It's really sad.
Just like you mentioned, party lines to me in Nigeria, it's just like an association you can belong to at your volition. You can just decide.
At convenience.
You can wake up and say, I'm going to Samson's party. And there's no... If we begin to run parties...
I think it's been made a little bit more difficult with this new electoral act.
Oh, yeah, I guess. But if you look at what has been, you discover that we are not running party structures institutionally. They are not like institutions where, for every institution you want to enter. I remember when I was writing, the UTME for the university I wanted to enter, it was so competitive. I mean, like, they needed just, they had a quota of about 3,005 or 4,005 students to be admitted into the university, and we were about, if I'm not mistaken, about over 10,000 students that were trying to seek admission in that university. And of course, it's the prestigious university, I don't need to mention. But I'm trying to say that if we run party lines and structures as institutions, it will make it more, because the democratic system, the internal democracy would exist, and we'll be able to say, everybody will be able to say, okay, this is what's obtainable in this party, and these are the things, the tenets, the philosophy, the policy prescription of this party. So this is a party I want to go because they have this and they don't have this. You know, it's so clear and easy. Right. Well, I just wanted to maybe just like you made reference to some of the issues that have happened in the, I think one thing is that we should keep thinking about what has happened to know where we are going. You know, anybody that forgets its history, like they say, its source, would actually eventually, you know, be destroyed. You know, so I think parties should look at this. For example, I remember, like you also said, PDP in 2013 to 2015, they had parallel leadership crisis as well. They had governors defecting en masse, and the result of that was that they lost out in the election in 2015. They lost power. And it's so easy to know. APC also, like you also mentioned, I think the state level, but I think at the national level, their internal crisis in 2018 to 2022 was also something to remember, when they had parallel congresses in multiple states, and of course, the court rulings nullifying their primaries, and the result was that they lost the electoral losses in key states of the country. And again, Labour Party 2023-2024, almost the same thing. Leadership tussles, post-election, legal battles over party control. The result was that they weakened their post-election momentum, and there seems to be nothing for them to hold on to till now as we speak. But, you know, I think if we can look back and look at these things, we can actually find a way to look at, okay, so how do we now do this so as not to, you know, fall victim to what has happened to some people in the past. I just wanted to mention 3 things that I think has become a thing to probably think about, especially this Bala Mark situation, the episode. There are 3 truths I want to probably just lay out. And the first is that leadership transitions are often, you know, elite controlled. They are not. They are opaque. The system, the structure is not in place to say this is the succession plan. If we have this big way, because we understand, yes, ADC needs. Okay, APC is a party, it has a structure. It needs, what does it need? It needs people who can fund. You know, that's one of the reasons why we're having these issues, because these big wigs are not just there because they are any special. It's because they have the bag. And so if you have the bag, you can help the party needs structures, they need finances even. So so sometimes they try to just compromise on that, to say, okay, if he has the money and he has the influence, like we know these guys are, of course, big wigs in the society, so they might want to say, okay, so I understand that's a thing. But should we have a succession plan? Yes. Should we have a structure that brings into power leadership, this leadership category of people who want to have? Yes. And that's what I'm trying to say. The second point I'm going to make is that the internal democracy is actually procedurally weak, and we all know this. And of course, but it is legally contested. It's legally contested, and that's one of the issues we have. That's why some people are saying there are a lot of court cases, pending cases for parties, and you see a party that is just a few years old, they have cases like a file of cases. I mean, so how do you do this? So these are one of the things that are weakening their structures in the first place. And again, the last point I will make is that pre-election coalitions tend to destabilize smaller parties. And this is what we say. Why did David Mark, Rauf Aregbesola, why did they not join the ADC 3 years ago? Why is it when the elections are near? See, I know we can do permutations, but can we do permutations earlier? Because it's one of the issues now. Election is fast approaching. The structure is destabilized. How do you expect yourself to be a force to reckon with come 2027 elections? It's almost like a no-brainer to understand that these things will fail. I don't know why they do not see it this way. This will fail because you are doing it too late. It's not because you are doing it. The time you are doing it is what is wrong. You are joining a party, you are forming coalition at how many months to election? Barely 9 or 10 months to election. And everybody's trying to, how can you expect it to work? That's why we need structures. We need parties to have discipline. Yes, you can compromise because of some things, but let the compromise also be structurally indicated. Let it be that, you are compromising because of this, but we also have a way to say, okay, this is what you are bringing to the table, but this is what we have on the table already. So you are not coming to decide. You are coming to follow what we have as a structure. And I think that's one of the things I think Nigerians, especially the political space, the Nigerian party lines should do come 2027 elections.
Well, just like you mentioned something about starting early. I don't think people will need emergency special, purpose vehicle would do that. I don't think they would do that. You would always need something to be done on an emergency basis, and that's exactly what happened. And the president even jokingly said that some people tried to colonize another person's political party, and it wasn't far from the truth. Okay, you go into someone else's political party, made some promises. At the end of the day, one of them is saying, "Look, the promises you made, you have not fulfilled," and he was coerced one way or the other into coming into that event. And after he came there, what was said to be the main reason why the meeting was convened was not eventually what was done at that meeting. And he was standing his ground saying, look, we have to go back to where we are coming from. Even if you are going to take over this party, there has to be some things that needs to be done. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, there's this idea of fire brigade approach, okay? We tend to do things the way we want it and not the way it should be done. But that's quite unfortunate. And just like I said earlier, too many times we are always looking for someone to blame, even for our own mistakes, deliberately made. I'm sure that when the cameras are down and behind the curtains, if these political bigwigs in the ADC, if they sit, they know where the problems are coming from. They know what to do. Take, for instance, in Adamawa State, the congresses that were conducted, 2 factions emerged. In Enugu State, 3 factions emerged. In Oyo State, that we were able to monitor by ourselves, the Olono faction of the political party had their own congress at the party secretariat at Mokola, and then they were there. Their tenure is still a few months from expiration, so they had their own congresses there, and Olono emerged again. Another faction, someone that joined the party less than 4 months ago, had his own convention, his own congress, somewhere at a particular hotel close to, like, going to Old Ife Road. He had his own. These are people that joined the party less than 4 months ago. It's a no-brainer. You expect INEC to now recognize you on what basis? It's a very big question. Because now, if we are really going to take anything away from some people, you have to be with them when you want to take it away, and they have to be in the know that you are taking this thing. You don't snatch. Because once you snatch, the person, how do they snatch your own phone and you don't run after that person unless you are being threatened at the point of death? That's the only reason you can let that person go. But when you still have the chance to fight, you will fight until you get that what belongs to you back. And now, I will mention names, but because it is at a point where you will now use common sense to now think of what exactly is happening within that party. There's a gubernatorial candidate who joined the party less than 5 months ago, way less than 5 months ago. Also, someone from Oyo joined the party less than 5 months ago, and they had, their own congress separately to that of the main structure you met in the political party when you came. The same place where you registered to be a member of the political party. You now had the intuition, or maybe someone told you from, the party secretariat in Abuja that you can also have your own congress. That's total hijack. Because if there's anything I have to take from you, you must be in the know that I'm taking it away. But unfortunately, they have created more problems than what was originally on ground. What this means is that INEC would recognize anyone that has not gone through the proper process. And then, lo and behold, you will see that people will now take INEC to court for not recognizing them. When you know where the mistake is, should we now pin all the blames on someone else when we know that we have actually made mistakes by ourselves? So what this means, in a nutshell, before we leave, is that as it stands, just like it happened in Zamfara, whatever is being done in the ADC today will be considered null and void, even after an election. And what it means is that no legitimate leadership in the party. That will be the first consideration. The other is no valid primaries, no valid candidates, no victories, regardless of the number of votes you have gathered in the election. That will be the last result for INEC. Because now it is crystal clear that what INEC said we should do, that what the court said, it wasn't even INEC. There was a court ruling that says, go back to where you are coming from. Ab initio, what was going on in the party. And after that has been done, now conduct your congresses. hand over to whoever you want to hand over to. The constitution does not say you cannot hand over to Rauf Aregbesola or David Mark or any other member of the party. But go back to where it all started and then hand over to them, because even Rauf Nwosu, until he handed over to Rauf Aregbesola, he was occupying that seat illegally because he was there for 20 years.
Yes,
and the constitution of the party says you can only be there for one term and stand for another term in another re-election. But unfortunately, he was there for 20 years, and the same person that was there illegally handed over to you. I mean, the process was faulty.
Illegal handing
over. And the process is faulty. And if the truth, when the chips are down, you just tell the truth. Because at the end of the day, the crisis will now come back to going back to court, back and forth. And that really does not help Nigeria's democracy. But it will be a convenient place to leave this topic this morning. And we'll take weather report on this show to help you plan your day. And that will start from the ancient metropolitan city of hospitality, Ibadan. What does the weather look like in Ibadan this morning? The weather in Ibadan right now is around 25 degrees Celsius. And later in the morning rises to 30 degrees Celsius. It will be mostly cloudy. Humidity will be around 2%. There will be a slight rise to 33 degrees Celsius later in the afternoon. Remaining mostly cloudy, humidity at 3%. But it drops to 28 degrees Celsius in the evening. It will be mostly cloudy, humidity at 1%. But it will be foggy overnight, and weather drops to 26 degrees Celsius. Humidity will be at 5% in Ibadan today.
Just over 100 kilometers away from Ibadan to Lagos, the weather is not too different because it will be cloudy at 28 degrees Celsius across board. In the morning, 31 degrees Celsius is what it starts with this morning at 10% humidity. And in the afternoon, a further rise of just 1 degree Celsius to 32 degrees Celsius. Expected to be mostly cloudy at 24% humidity. And of course, in the evening, it drops to 29 degrees Celsius. Expected to be mostly cloudy as well. Then it drops much further by 1 degree Celsius overnight to 28 degrees Celsius to become mostly cloudy at 1% in Lagos today.
All right, moving away from Lagos, we move straight to Abeokuta in Ogun State, and that's the gateway state. The weather in Abeokuta is currently at 30 degrees Celsius, and it will remain same later in the morning, while it will be cloudy and the humidity will be around 2%. In the afternoon, it rises to 34 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy, humidity will be at 6%, but there will be a drop to 20 degrees Celsius in the evening. Cloudy, mostly cloudy, and humidity will be at 1%. And overnight, it drops further to 26 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy, humidity at 3% right there in Abeokuta, Ogun State today.
And from Abeokuta now to Osun-Osogbo today, the weather is going to be cloudy across the board, 24 degrees Celsius in Osun today. In the morning, 29 degrees Celsius is what it starts with. Expect to be mostly cloudy in Osun-Osogbo today. And of course, in the afternoon, it rises by 4 degrees Celsius to 33 degrees Celsius. Expect to be mostly cloudy as well. Then it drops back to 27 degrees Celsius, about 6 degrees Celsius drop to become mostly cloudy. And overnight, it drops further by 2 degrees Celsius to 25 degrees Celsius. Also expected to be cloudy at 5% humidity in Osun-Osogbo today.
All right, a quick tour to Ekiti this morning. What does the weather look like in Ekiti? Right now, it is at 24 degrees Celsius. It will rise by 4 degrees Celsius later in the morning to 28 degrees Celsius, cloudy with humidity at 2%. And it rises further to 32 degrees Celsius in the afternoon, mostly cloudy, humidity at 15%. And by evening, it drops to 26 degrees Celsius, cloudy, humidity at 3%, while overnight, it drops further to 24 degrees Celsius, cloudy, humidity remaining at 3% in Ekiti today.
I'll take a far drive away from the southwest now to Calabar Municipal, Cross River State is where I land at 25 degrees Celsius. What the weather would speak to today. Of course, later in the morning, 29 degrees Celsius. There is a promise of showers at 100% humidity in Calabar today. If you have a friend there, you can put a call through for them to get their umbrella. 29 degrees Celsius, it will rain. In the afternoon, 31 degrees Celsius with a promise of scattered thunderstorms, still cloudy at 48% humidity. And then a further drop to 26 degrees Celsius expected to be mostly cloudy. And overnight, it's going to be foggy, so there's probably no flights expected in Cross River today overnight at 25 degrees Celsius because the weather will be foggy at 3% humidity in Calabar today.
All right, away from Calabar, we are still in the south-south. We take this one from Port Harcourt, River State, this morning. And in Port Harcourt, weather is currently at 23 degrees Celsius, and it will rise by 4 degrees Celsius to 27 degrees Celsius later in the morning. Mostly cloudy. Humidity will be at 16%. And in the afternoon, it rises slightly to 28 degrees Celsius with a promise of scattered thunderstorms in Port Harcourt, and humidity will rise to 52%. But there will be a drop to 23 degrees Celsius in the evening. Mostly cloudy. Humidity will be as low as 3%. And overnight, it will be foggy. And weather drops to 22 degrees Celsius, and humidity maintains 3% right there in Port Harcourt, River State today.
And from Port Harcourt now to the largest state in the country, that's Niger State, Suleja. The weather will be mostly cloudy across day and night at 26 degrees Celsius. And in the morning, it will start at 31 degrees Celsius, expected to be mostly cloudy. Then it rise to 36 in the afternoon to about 5 degrees Celsius rise to become mostly cloudy. And then it drops down to 30 degrees Celsius, dropping 6 degrees Celsius, expected to be mostly cloudy as well. And overnight, it drops by 3 degrees Celsius to 27 degrees Celsius, expected to be mostly cloudy in Suleja, Niger State today.
All right, still in the north central, we'll take this one from Abuja, the FCT, this morning. Weather in Abuja, as it stands, is currently at 26 degrees Celsius. There will be a rise to 32 degrees Celsius later in the morning. And of course, to be mostly cloudy with zero chance of humidity. And in the afternoon, it rises further to 36 degrees Celsius. It remains mostly cloudy, zero chance of humidity. It drops to 30 degrees Celsius later in the evening, remaining mostly cloudy with humidity at 1%. And overnight, it drops again to 26 degrees Celsius. And it will be mostly cloudy with zero chance of humidity in the FCT today.
And from the FCT now to Maiduguri, Borno State, the weather will be at 26 degrees Celsius averagely. In the morning, it's very sunny at 35 degrees Celsius is what the weather would look like. 0% of humidity. Today, of course, afternoon, it will also rise about 6 degrees Celsius up to 41 degrees Celsius to become mostly cloudy. And then it will drop down in the evening to 32 degrees Celsius to be partly cloudy. And to remain mostly cloudy overnight at 28 degrees Celsius, dropping about 4 degrees Celsius down to 28 from 32 in the evening to 28 degrees Celsius overnight in Maiduguri, Borno State today. All
right, I'll take this one from Kano this morning, Kano State. Weather in Kano, as we speak, is currently at 24 degrees Celsius. And later in the morning, it will rise to 33 degrees Celsius. And it will be mostly cloudy with zero chance of humidity. It will rise as high as 40 degrees Celsius in the afternoon. Quite sunny, but it will be a little bit mostly cloudy right there with zero chance of humidity. And it drops back to 32 degrees Celsius in the evening, remaining mostly cloudy. Humidity will be at 0%. And overnight, it drops again to 26 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy, zero chance of humidity right there in Kano today.
And of course, from Kano now to Ilorin West, which is Kwara State, where we'll drop the curtains on this edition. Of course, 26 degrees Celsius is what the weather will be like, mostly cloudy across that region in Kwara State. Of course, morning, 30 degrees Celsius appears to be mostly cloudy. Then it rises to 36 degrees Celsius, just 6 degrees Celsius up notch to become mostly cloudy. And then in the evening, it drops down to 29 degrees Celsius to become mostly cloudy. And then the further drop of 3 degrees Celsius overnight to 26 degrees Celsius to remain cloudy at 2% humidity in Ilorin West, Kwara State today.
All right, that's all we can take on Weather Report this morning. We say thank you for being a part of the show so far. Do well to link up with us on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Dominion Broadcast. And on X, formerly Twitter, at Dominion Cast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Dominion Broadcast and our Facebook page at Dominion Broadcast Television. You can also do well to drop your comments right there, and of course, we'll take them on this show. Let's go on a quick break, and when we return, we'll take the news. We'll be back.
Hello and welcome to Daybreak News on Dominion Television, Ibadan. I am Anu Luwakpo Idowu. Boko Haram terrorists have issued a fresh threat over 416 abducted victims in Borno State, warning that if their demands are not met within 72 hours, the victims will be taken to different locations where they may never be seen again. The terrorists revealed this in a video delivered in Hausa and translated into English, stating that it is battle-ready and will resist any forceful operation. However, the group did not state its demands in the video. The president of the Borno South Youth Alliance, Samaila Keigama, confirmed the threat, describing it as a final warning, and that the terrorists are demanding a 5 billion naira ransom. Samaila further called on the government and concerned Nigerians to urgently intervene and use every lawful and available means for the victims' release. Retired police personnel and their families under the Police Retired Officers Forum of Nigeria, PROF, have stirred a protest in Abuja over the continued inclusion of the Nigeria Police Force (NPF) in the Contributory Pension Scheme (CPS). The National Coordinator of PROF, retired CSP Raphael Irowainu, said the bill passed by the National Assembly on December 4, 2025 and transmitted to the Presidency on March 16, 2026 seeks to remove police personnel from the scheme if signed into law. The retirees and says the scheme is unfair, noting other security agencies have exited, while urging the presidency to act swiftly on the bill. The latest protest underscores growing dissatisfaction among retired police personnel over pension reforms and their exclusion from benefit extended to other security agencies. The United States mission to Nigeria has reaffirmed a strong partnership with Nigeria, citing cooperation across key sectors. In a statement on its X handle, the mission said both countries maintain enduring ties that support mutual prosperity and development, and the bid to engage on issues including counterterrorism cooperation, trade facilitation, educational exchange programs, and public health initiatives. The mission added that strong links between citizens, institutions, and businesses continue to drive stability, economic growth, and improved social outcomes. Oyo State government has partnered with United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, and other development organizations to scale up the multiple micronutrient supplementation (MMS) program for pregnant women, with total investment approaching $500 million. This was disclosed at pilot dissemination meetings on MMS held in Ibadan, convened to share findings from implementation, research, feasibility studies, and pilot projects on the transition from iron and folic acid supplementation (IFAS) to MMS for pregnant women. The meeting brought together officials from the State Ministry of Health, UNICEF, Evidence Action, public health practitioners, as well as pregnant and nursing mothers to exchange experiences and assess evidence on effectiveness, adherence, and acceptability with a view to reducing maternal and infant mortality. The Southwest Regional Manager of Evidence Action, Marian Ede, disclosed that an average of 160,000 pregnant women would be reached monthly in the scale-up program across all 33 local government areas of the state. The federal government has raised concern over rising fire incident linked to poorly installed rooftop solar systems across the country. The Nigerian Electricity Management Services Agency, NEMSA, issued a warning signed by the Chief Electrical Inspector of the Federation in a public notice highlighting growing safety risks, blaming the incident on poor workmanship and substandard materials and lack of protective devices and other non-compliance with regulations. The agency urged Nigerians to use only certified solar installers, stressing that qualified professionals are essential for safe and standard compliant installations. And talking politics, the Southwest leadership of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, has reaffirmed its total support for the Oyo State Governor, Engineer Seyi Makinde, as well as Nigerian populists. Its zonal secretary, Soya Ato-Farati, disclosed this during a press briefing held at the party's zonal headquarters in Ibadan, affirming the party's loyalty to the National Working Committee (NWC) under the leadership of Aminu Turaki. The party also dispelled speculation surrounding an alleged impeachment plan against the governor, insisting that no such process exists, describing the claims as baseless and a deliberate attempt to stir political tension. And in business, the Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission, RMAFC, has initiated plans to cooperate with the Federal Ministry of Interior to attract more foreign investments into the country. This formed the focus of a meeting in Abuja where the RMAFC chairman, Dr. Mohammed Bello Shehu, led the delegation to engage with the Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, on issues ranging from revenue generation to migration management and national development. Speaking during the meeting, Shehu said the Commission was preparing to host a major oil and gas summit aimed at drawing investments into both upstream and downstream segments of the sector. He noted that the Commission plays a key constitutional role in monitoring funds paid into the Federation account and ensuring that such revenues are shared in line with existing laws. And finally, in sport, the Nigeria Basketball Federation, NBF, has appointed Stanley Boateng as assistant coach of the senior women's national basketball team, the Tigers. Boateng will join the technical crew led by head coach Rena Wakama, who has steered the team to significant milestones, including historic performances at the Olympics and AfroBasket successes. Officials say Boateng's appointment will add fresh expertise in player development as the team builds on its status as a leading force in African women's basketball. And that's about it on Daybreak News. You can visit our website on www.dominion.org.ng to watch us live and interact with us. You can also follow us across our social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn at Dominion Broadcast and next at Dominion Cast. And that ends Daybreak News on Dominion Television. I am Anoluwapo Ido. Thank you for watching.
Live from the heart of the action. Welcome to the nerve center of Next Level Broadcasting.
This is the OB van, where the studio meets the street.
Equipped with cutting-edge cameras, crystal clear audio, real-time switching, and broadcast control, we don't just capture moments, we deliver the experience live.
Anywhere, anytime, from stadiums to red carpets, breaking news to buzzing festivals, weddings, birthdays, and all sorts of ceremonies. We bring the world to your screen in real time.
It's not just a van, it's a complete mobile production house, a command center, a broadcast beast.
This is more than a broadcast. This is the OB van difference. Live, loud, limitless.
Ready to go live? Like never before. Book the OB van today and take your event to the world. One powerful broadcast at a time.
To book, call 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Email marketing@dominion.org.ng or visit our socials on Instagram @Dominion Broadcast.
Dominion Broadcast, your channel of choice.
Waking up to a story that says terrorists have placed about a 6 billion naira ransom on their victims they kidnapped along Kaduna and Borno State. And that is one of the stories I saw this morning. And of course, very disheartening. It's appalling to have this kind of stories. And this is way beyond the negotiation pattern we've seen in recent times. This is now a different effrontery, a different confidence to come out to say, you know what, we are requesting for 6 billion naira from this government. Otherwise, something else would happen. We should give the, we should make the case. We should, give, some of the things. We should give the way to go for negotiation. Should it be them or the federal government? But anyway, that's one of the highlights and the high point of the stories we have on the newspapers this morning. Of course, the papers are heavy, quite filled with a lot of stories. Of course, we track them on this edition of Newspaper Headlines and Analysis segment of the Daybreak Live this morning. That is one story to tell. Of course, the New Telegraph paper is where I'll start from. And on the front page of the New Telegraph, many stories made it to the front page. But of essence and of importance is that story on terrorists claiming to, have about 6 billion naira ransom to go on the heads of the people that were abducted, the victims they've abducted along Kaduna and Borno State. Very, very unfortunate. I mean, it's not something to even have as a story, but what do we have in the country? In fact, they placed 1 billion naira on Ariko Easter Day worshippers. Of course, another breakout this up right under the story says 3 soldiers, others killed in choir attack, 6 dead, several injured in fresh Plateau attacks. ISWAP allegedly blocks Borno Road, abduct 30 passengers, and Boko Haram issues 72-hour ultimatum over 416 captives. That's one of the stories we've just tracked for you. An Anglican bishop urges firmer action on bandits and decries killings. That's a very sad case. You wake up to one story of insecurity and another. The next day, following day, you have another story. The instances are just glaring us in the very eye. And sometimes you want to ask the question, should the government really call to the chase and really do what they said they would do? Like walking the talk in the country instead of just a lot of claims. But these are one of the things we have in the country, talking insecurity. But I know many things will still unfold and keep our fingers crossed and hope for the best, especially the victims to be released from this custody, from the custody of these people called ISWAP, Boko Haram, or whatever name they have to call them. And again, moving on from that story, talking elections, party politics, we are not in talks with PDP, and that is ADC. We're not in talks with PRP, I meant to say. Our worst days are now over, says PDP. Anyway, many things to check out on that particular story. Meanwhile, still on the New Telegraph newspaper this morning, Baba Ahmed says Tinubu disconnected from Nigeria's hardship. Yes, this story yesterday, when it dropped, I was asking questions, but of course, you might want to say that our leaders, a good number of them are dissociated from the reality of the Nigerian people. And that's why it's quite easy for them to come out to say a few things. One might maybe disagree with some of the things they say. For sometimes, it's just they say one thing and it means the other. And you ask the question, really, you said this the last time. Why would we have this now? Nobody to really sometimes question them. Perhaps for immunity to say, but we have to also speak truth to power to say if you are a person of integrity, if you speak a word, let it be that you mean the word. Say the things you mean and mean the things you say. And that's just the logic behind integrity. And that's one of the things we expect from our leaders in the country. Moving on from that story as well, retired police officers protest over pension scheme, block Aso Villa. Yes, that's one of the things we also tracked for you in the news that we have just read this morning. Retired police officers claiming that they do not want to be on a particular thing that they were put on, and that's one of the cries of these people. And of course, if you have served the country, I think you should not muzzle the ox that works on the farm, right? It should have benefits that he's also getting from the work he's doing. Like some would say, now where will they work? With the shop, like workshop. Anyway, moving on from that New Telegraph now to the Nigerian Tribune newspaper this morning, and the front page is quite loaded with so many stories, but of course party politics is on the front line, and the biggest caption on that newspaper this morning, Nigerian Tribune has it, how ADC presidential candidates may emerge. That's a story on page 16. United Opposition Movement midwife to midwife consensus option, according to a source. And that's on Nigerian Tribune newspaper. This morning, top corner, you see choir 4 soldiers vigilante feared killed in terrorist attack. 42 illegal miners arrested over abduction of traditional ruler. 5 killed in fresh attack in Benue. A very unfortunate, another one right there. Insecurity, insecurity, insecurity. Daniel shot out as Ogun East APC endorsed Abiodun for Senate. We didn't prevent him from entering. Abiodun's aide. That's about the Ogun issue. As we also see, we keep tabs on that and many other stories. PDP crisis. Wike calls for committee on reconciliation. Over PDP crisis, Wike calls for committee on reconciliation. That's the story on page 16. This morning, talking the People's Democratic Party, their crisis. It seems like Wike is ready, and even his body language is like, let's have this thing back. But some would say maybe it's a bit too late. Others would say, yeah, there's still time. Perhaps time will tell itself. Now, CBN warns banks to unlock $1 billion monthly diaspora inflow by year end. Central Bank of Nigeria warns banks to unlock $1 billion monthly diaspora inflow by year end. Of course, forensic reports reveals Amupitan has no X account, according to INEC. Yes, that's one of the conversations we've just had this morning with Samson. And of course, it's quite a thing to note that, yes, the statement that was acclaimed or alleged to have been made by Amupitan in support of the APC has now been discovered to be not his account. So forensic audit, or should we say a report, has brought it out that Amupitan has no X account. So whatever you saw on the social media, according to INEC, is not Amupitan's voice, like they say. That is not my face. And that's exactly one thing to, maybe it's a relief for some people that have been thinking about the, the viability, or should we say the potency or the credibility of Amupitan as the INEC chairman come to 2027 election. Some have said because he was put there by the president, then he must also rub the back of the president. That is a case of, if you rub my back, I'll rub yours. And some have also said that is not true. Amupitan has a lot to show. It's for him to decide or to do whatever he has in mind. So let's wait and see. Others are saying we are not waiting, but want someone else. In fact, there's a coalition or a movement, a group of people who have come to say, you know what, we don't want this person as the chairman. But all of that still on the table of discourse. Meanwhile, taking other stories on health, air pollution raises cancer risk by 11%, according to a global report that is warning. How do we say this, especially in Nigeria, where air pollution is a normal thing? People don't, in fact, some people like air pollution. Some like it when they stay near generators and vehicles that are releasing a lot of exhaust. And you ask the question, really, do you think that's hygienic for you? Some just said, oh, I think I like the smell of these kind of things. But anyway, air pollution is actually increasing the risk of cancer. So just so you need to know, that's one of the health tips you get from me this morning. APC presidential candidate to emerge May 16. NWC fixes governorship primaries for May 23. That's also something to check this morning. Tinubu approves 15 billion naira takeoff grants for new police academy campus in Ogun State. One of the approval, which is a good, of course. We need a lot of security. We need a lot of infrastructure in the security as much as we can use. Yes, moving on from Nigerian Tribune now to the Punch newspaper this morning. On the front page of the Punch, it has the caption, the biggest of caption reads, APC imposes 2-week deadline for presidential governor and National Assembly forms. That's also one thing to check out this morning. APC imposes 2-week deadline for presidential governor. So if you are going to run for presidency, you might need 100 million naira to buy the form. And if you are running for governor, then you need 500. I think it's 500,000 or 5 million. But of course, we get to see the breakdown in the course of time. Yes, the APC has come out to say we give you just 2 weeks to get the money if you have interest in becoming any of this. And of course, some would even question why would you really have 100 million for presidency? Others have said yes, it's because of the party structure. We need to have this money to do some of the things we want to do, the campaigns, all of the things we have to settle. But I know sometimes, most times, they still spend more than that. That's just like one of the things to hold as something you pay. Anyway, that's another thing. I mean, we've also seen in time past when a lot of persons will have to start donating, raising funds for president for electoral office holders to say we will support you and we want to give you the money. But will this be the case 2027? Time will tell. I'll keep our fingers crossed and see what happens. Now, over 4,600 Nigerian doctors relocate to UK in 3 years. It's one of the reports sometimes I laugh because, maybe these are the legal ones. What about the legal ones that have left? But anyway, that's the case. Over 4,600 Nigerian doctors have relocated to the UK in 3 years. That's a report. If we lose 4,600, who are the people replacing these people? Obviously, if there's no replacement, then there's a void. And that's one of the things we talk about, the brain drain in that sector. If we have doctors leaving the country without replacement, the brain drain will kill the rest in the country. They would have to face so many. Imagine a doctor having to deal with over 30 people every day just for consultation. Just speaking to 30 people can sap your energy, sap the life out of you, and that's one of the things we say, and that's just the little part of being a doctor. What about if you have to be maybe a surgeon now? You have to go into theaters. You have to go into 4 theater rooms in a day. How do you expect to do that? Seeing blood all over. I mean, that's one of the things we keep saying. But this would not stop, and I'm so sure of this because it can only stop when we upgrade some of the things we do. We upgrade our facility, we upgrade. Some have also said it's not just about the resources. The human resources is also something to cater to. Because if you cater to maybe like you provide materials, you provide equipment and all of the things that we can work with, that is a plus. But what about the people that are supposed to use those materials? We have to also see to their remuneration, their emoluments, their arrears, whatever they have to get, the salaries or wages. We need to also see to that they earn enough to be stable in the country. And that's one of the things we say. Obi Kwakwanso launched joint movement before ADC primaries. That's also talking politics today across the country. I'll take a drive away from the Punch now to Vanguard newspaper this morning. What is vanguarding? Vanguard is vanguarding insecurity, because that's the biggest caption on the front page of Vanguard newspaper this morning. It reads, many terrorists, 3 soldiers killed in Kwara gun battle. And that's talking insecurity, as you can see on your screen this morning. Just so bright as all of that says, terrorists evacuate dead colleagues in military's armored vehicle. 11 killed, scores injured in Plateau, Benue attacks. We were beaten with cutlasses, rescued Benue Jam candidates, recounts audio. CDS tags troops to crush terrorists and ensure lasting peace. And police arrest 42 illegal miners over fresh abduction of Kwara monarch. That is also something to check out this morning. Police pensioners protest in Abuja, block villa access roads. Yeah, that's one story we've also highlighted for you in the news. Now, APC pegs presidential form at 100 million naira. Primary holds May 15. That's a big one on the Vanguard newspaper this morning. 100 million naira for Mr. Toby to contest for presidency. I mean, that's some would say money in water, but maybe it's not water in this sense. Now, Senate seat. Ogun East APC leaders endorse Abiodun and bar Daniel. Page 10 of Vanguard newspaper is where to get this story to have more reads on this morning. Stop running to Abuja. Governors can fix insecurity. That's coming from ex-CP Owoshieni. Is saying that stop running to Abuja, governors can fix insecurity. Is that true? How valid is that statement? Anyway, maybe doctors will respond to this. NCC, or perhaps, I say doctors, governors will respond to this. NCC CBN launch portal to track fraudulent phone lines. Well, this is long overdue. It's something we should have had. Nigeria Communications Commission and CBN launching a portal to track fraudulent phone lines. Yes, because these people, perpetrators of evil, the kidnappers, they make calls to people and then we don't get to track them. How? How did you manage to do that? Well, this is Nigeria, like they say. Now, no talks with PRP yet. We are focused on court case. That's ADC coming out to lay that claim this morning that there is no talks with PRP as we speak, but they are focused on courts. case. This morning, Tinubu disconnected from hardship facing Nigerians. That's Akim Baba Ahmed, also making a claims about this administration and particularly President Tinubu this morning. And of course, to track other stories, court admits more exhibit against ex-AGF, Malami, son and wife over alleged money laundering. That's another unfolding as we speak about the case of Malami's son and his wife. Courts admit more exhibits against ex-AGF. That's alleged money laundering issue that has been filed against Malami and his family. Now, moving on from Vanguard newspaper this morning to Daily Sun newspaper, the caption is not so appealing to emotions and even to the eyes. Bloodbath in Plateau, Benue, Kwara State. Bloodbath in Plateau, Benue, Kwara State. Soldiers, others killed, injured in fresh attacks. And again, women protest in Riom community. CDS visit troops, pledges renewed efforts against banditry in Zamfara. And gunmen kill driver, abduct passengers in Oreto Benin Way Expressway, unfortunately. Refinancing risk rise as Nigeria's debt nears 180 trillion naira. That's another one to check out this one. Refinancing risk rise as Nigeria's debt nears 180 trillion naira. Enugu women demand senatorial slot. Also on Daily Sun newspaper, INEC chairman unveils report of forensic investigation and partisan expose. That's also a story we've talked about earlier. You are an umpire, not hired hitman. ADC youth tell Amukwiton. You are an umpire, not hired hitman. ADC youth tell Amukwiton. Party denies talks with PRP, affirms commitment to legal battle. That is also something to track further in the course of time. Today, Boko Haram dares federal government over 416 victims in Borno. Kaduna Easter Day attack, kidnappers demand 1 billion naira ransom. These guys have a lot of money they are demanding, and I just hope we get to the end of this in no time, or should we say in real time. Now, the Nation newspaper is where I would take my other stories from. Of course, APC presidential governorship primaries fixed for May 15, 23, of course, May 15 for the presidential, and the governorship will be 23 for the primaries in the APC. That's one update coming from the APC this morning. National State Assemblies to hold May 18, 20, and 21. Full timetable has been released by the APC. Seems APC is leading. If you check this scoreboard, especially as to their preparations for the 2027 elections, it's like they are really working so hard. ABGA plans primaries for May 23. That's another one to check out this morning. ABGA party is also planning their primaries for May 23, as we have with many persons already getting set. Just about 9 months or 10 months to election, and this is expected anyway. IG's panel on state police gave 60-month timeline. Why Inspector General's panel on state police gave 60-month timeline. That's, if you want to get to read, check that page 3 of the Nation newspaper this morning, as we also track these stories and many more. No respite for Ernest Obiajesi and Nestor as Federal High Court discharges ex parte orders restraining EFCC from investigating Amaranta Oil and Gas Development Limited and John Street hydrocarbons. That's one of the court cases involving the oil industry. If you want to get a read on that story, check the Nation this morning. Edu says reforms driving investors' confidence. The minister has come out to say this again. Wale Edu says reforms driving investors' confidence. Growth now accelerating. That's what he is coming out to say on economic reforms this morning. Wale Edu is saying reforms are driving investors' confidence right there. Something to look out for and to hold this morning on the Nation newspaper, as we also track it much more. Now, 3 soldiers killed, 4 injured in terrorist attack on Kwara military base. Page 7 of the Nation newspaper is where to catch up on this story. Of course, very, very unfortunate, a sad story right there to check out this morning. Meanwhile, Daily Trust newspaper is where we will take a few other stories from. This morning, Daily Trust newspaper has the story, the caption, INEC clears chair, Amokriton must go, protests swell. INEC clears chair, of course, that's the situation where INEC brought out a forensic report to say the X account that was alleged to have been used or handled by Joash Amokriton, the current chairman of INEC, does not belong to him. In fact, some have also said that Amokriton must go, and that's where the protest is also coming from, to say you cannot say this, you cannot support a party, it cannot be partisan and still be in this particular seat, because whatever, if you're partisan, it means your emotions, everything you have, your philosophy is going to be connected to this party, and so if there's any opportunity for them to rig election, you will be able to do that, and we don't want that. But that's like the breakout from that story. We'll keep tabs on this and many other stories and see what becomes of Amokriton and what becomes of 2027 election, because all eyes are on Amokriton as we speak, because we understand what's at stake. A lot of people are really clamoring for change. Others are saying let's have continuity, and it's just so natural to have these kind of things. And if you have to also think about the past elections in the country, has it been fair, credible, and just the way we expect it? Some will say not exactly. Others will say yes, we are not 100%, but we are very close, because we are seeing a lot of development even before now. You remember way before 2019, the issue of beavers was not a thing, right? And then we moved from then to having beavers. The last elections, beavers was, for the most part, it was useful. You could see that, yes, accreditation was quite easier than what it used to be. Now we are trying to put an end to some of the examination malpractices loopholes that we have in electoral matters, to say, okay, yes, if we have a machine that can verify or accredit you, then there's a chance that once we accredit you, that means you are a person, you are a living soul. Because I remember one of the elections we had in the country, there were claims about some people that were not even up to voting age that came out in some states to vote. And you might want to say, how did that happen? Some even said there were many fingers. Some, it's so funny, because they said some people had to thumbprint using both hands. Some used 2 fingers, 3 fingers, and then they were able to thumbprint and vote. So you have one person voting 3 times. How did you do that? But like they say, this is Nigeria, so people will still find a way around some of these things. But of course, many other stories will still keep tabs on as we proceed in this edition of Daybreak Live. But of course, we have to draw the curtains on this edition of newspaper headlines and analysis and move over to the big story with Samson Balogun. That will be shortly after this break. Stay with us.
morning and welcome to The Big Story. Today we ask a question that sits at the very heart of Nigeria's democratic journey. What really sustains a democracy? Strong institutions or strong political parties? Is it the independence and the resilience of bodies like Independent National Electoral Commission, the judiciary, and law enforcement agencies? Or is it the discipline, internal democracy, and ideological strength of political parties like that of the All Progressives Congress and the People's Democratic Party? These are big questions. So, in a country where elections are fiercely contested, but often settled in courtrooms, and where internal party crises sometimes override the will of voters, the debate has never been more urgent. This is not just theory, it is reality. From candidate disputes to electoral controversies, the stability of Nigeria's democracy is constantly being tested. Today we go beyond the headlines to examine the real pillars holding up or shaking our democratic system. Nigeria's democracy has always existed in a delicate balance between institutions and political parties, two forces meant to complement each other but often found in tension or at loggerheads. Strong institutions are designed to be neutral arbiters. The court interprets the law. The Independent National Electoral Commission organizes elections. Anti-corruption agencies enforce accountability. So, in theory, these institutions should be strong enough to withstand political pressure and ensure fairness, regardless of who is in power. But in practice, institutions do not operate in a vacuum. They are only as effective as the political environment allows them to be. On the other hand, political parties are the vehicles of democracy. They recruit leaders, aggregate interest, and present choices to the electorate. Yet, in Nigeria, many parties are weakened by internal crises, factional battles, imposition of candidates, and a lack of ideological clarity. A striking example of what happened in Zamfara State, where the All Progressives Congress won elections but ultimately lost everything due to flawed primaries. It went as high as the Supreme Court. The intervention of the Supreme Court of Nigeria underscored the power of institutions, but it also exposed the fragility of party structures. So this raises a deeper question. Should institutions constantly rescue democracy from failures of political parties? And when institutions are strong but parties are weak, governance becomes unstable. Leaders emerge without clear mandates. Yes. And political legitimacy is frequently contested. Policies become inconsistent. And accountability suffers for all of this. But conversely, when parties are strong but institutions are weak, democracy risks sliding into dominance by political elites. Rules may become bent, opposition suppressed, just like some rumors out there, and in some cases, elections reduced to mere formalities that might not have been necessary in the first place. The real challenge for Nigeria is not choosing one over the other, but achieving a balance where institutions are independent, trusted, and enforce the rule of law without fear or favor. Political parties are internally democratic, transparent, and accountable to the people, to the people of Nigeria. Recent developments across party lines, from internal disputes to leadership struggles, highlight a recurring pattern. When parties fail to manage their internal processes, institutions are forced to step in, just like courts will step in to organize political parties. It's an aberration. It shouldn't have happened in the first place if parties had done the right thing. And when institutions are perceived as weak or compromised, political actors exploit these gaps. Beyond Zamfara, Nigeria has witnessed repeated instances where courts determine electoral outcomes long after ballots are cast. This trend shifts the battlegrounds of democracy from the people to the judiciary, raising concerns about voter confidence and democratic legitimacy. Imagine when you cast your vote and the court says it doesn't count, but then this is what should be done. And there is also the issue of political culture. Strong institutions require respect for rules, where strong parties require discipline and ideology. Without these, both pillars weaken simultaneously. So ultimately, democracy sustained not just our structures, but by behavior, by how political actors engage with both institutions and party. So this morning, we asked this question: is Nigeria building institutions strong enough to outlast political interest? Or are we relying too heavily on fragile party systems to carry the weight of democracy? We are joined by the deputy editor of the Nigerian Tribune. He joins us over the phone this morning, and that is in person of Sam Nwoko. Sam Nwoko, good morning to you. Hello. Hello, Sam. Good morning. Okay, looks like the network is still a little bit shaky. But then, let's go on a quick break. And when we return, the show continues. We'll be back. Welcome. Sam Nwoko is on the line. He joins us on the show this morning. Sam Nwoko, good morning to you. Hello.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning, Sam. Okay, I guess you can hear me clearly. All right. We're having this conversation about what Nigeria truly needs. Strong institutions or strong political parties, or both. Because if one is weak, the other suffers. And if the other is also weak, the very first one also suffers. So some have argued that Nigeria needs both. If the institutions do not really have to step into party politics to correct anomalies, then it means Nigeria will be on a very good pedestal, especially going into elections. And we still hope very much that Sam Nwoko is there to munch on this this morning. Hello, Sam.
He has gone again. He has.
Okay, Sam is here now. Okay, you had the question I asked earlier.
Okay, please go ahead. There's something.
Okay, looks like the network is a little bit it's not that straightforward this morning. But then we'll go forward with the topic. Nigeria is at a crossroad. It is becoming more and more of a challenge. When the system fails, how can you vouch for the electoral system and the election itself? How difficult is it for Nigeria to have two pillars that should help each other? when you talk about strong institutions, you talk about the Independent National Electoral Commission, you talk about the judiciary, you talk about the police, the security apparatus in the country. And when you talk about strong political parties, Nigeria already has that. Nigeria has the APC, or maybe the PDP is still struggling a little bit, but then PDP was once the biggest political party in the whole of Africa. And at that time, it was so rosy that the PDP concluded, and some of them said, look, we are going to rule for so number of years. But unfortunately, it only lasted 16 years. So, this also brings the question of consistency. How consistent are our political parties? How consistent are our systems in the country? Because when you go into the elections, they all work hand in hand, including the EFCC. In some cases during the elections, EFCC do arrest some people, vote buying and some other things, anomalies happening during elections. The police make sure that when it comes to security of lives and properties during the election, they are there. And when you talk about INEC, the sole responsibility is to conduct free and fair elections and also oversee the affairs of some political parties, especially when they are in times of crisis. So, Sam Nwoko is back online. Hello, Sam.
Good morning, listener. Good morning, viewers, and good morning those who are listening in through other devices. I see that a whole lot is going on in the polity today, and everything points to one direction: lack of coordination of our institutions, and also the fact, another direction, at the same direction, is that our institutions tend not to work for the good of the country, but for the good of those who are in control of those institutions. The institutions themselves have reasons to work for the principals who appoint the heads of such institutions. The institutions don't tend to work for a robust, egalitarian Nigeria. So that's a very big problem. Call INEC, call even the political parties themselves, call the judiciary, call the legislator, all the institutions, the customs, the immigration service, and so on and so forth. Name whatever it is. They name any institution. They are obviously working to satisfy the whims and caprices of the people in power, and not working to ensure that Nigeria grows into an egalitarian society, a better Nigeria for all, and a society Nigerians will be proud of. So this is one of the huge problems in our hands. Look at the political parties. Before now, in the First Republic and in the Second Republic, people register as members of political parties and pay dues as members of political parties. You pay dues, the dues you pay are properly registered in your membership card, and when you bring up your membership card, you will have a number, you will have something to say that yes, you are a proud member of such political party. And when it comes to election, you obey the whims, the sentiments, and the decisions of your political party. But now, people wait for political parties to be formed. Then those who have the wherewithal, those who have the means, will hijack such political parties. And then they will become the puppeteers, and they will be pulling all the strings. They will be take the decisions, and they will make sure that these decisions are implemented. They are the ones who decide. They will have the yam and the knife. So everything will be at their beck and call. I remember when some of the things we read during the time of Chief Obafemi Awolowo, he, as the leader of the political party and of course the founder of that party, had an idea of who he wanted to be the governor of Kwara State. He wanted Cornelius Adebayo, but people refused and said, no, this is the person we want. And he said, okay, if that is what you want, the will of the people is the way to go. It happened in Ibadan here too, in Oyo State. He wanted Chief Emmanuel Alayonde to be the governor, but the young element said, no, Chief, we want Chief Bola Ige to be the governor. And we all know what happened. But you don't have such anymore because the institutions have now been personalized. The institutions now belong to the richest among the membership. And before you know it, whatever he says will go. If such young elements as we had during the days of Chief Bola Ige and Ebenezer Babatope and so on rise against the will of the leader of the party, they will set another institution like the EFCC. They will set it against him. They will set another institution like the ICPC against him. They will use the judiciary to knock him off. And everything goes on and on like that. So, for me, our institutions are not doing what they are supposed to do. Our institutions are just institutions by mere nomenclature. They are not institutions to nourish Nigeria and bring us to where we are going.
Okay, Sam. You just mentioned something about institutions being weak, and we have had situations where when political parties fail, institutions have had to step in. Okay, we have seen situations where the courts will come in to step in. Look at the case of Zamfara. When political parties fail to conduct legal primaries recognized by INEC, and then they had to concede all elective positions in that state to the political parties that came second in the election. We're having something similar going on in some political parties with internal party democracy also being jeopardized at this time. Talk about the ADC, who's also having, they are at loggerheads as regards what happened with the current leadership of the party and the past administration. Also, you look at that of the PDP, it looks like that is already looking like it is being settled. But as it stands, is it the failure of political parties that has also affected these institutions that are meant to strong and also put these political parties in order? Is it the failure of the political parties, or they have both failed at the same time?
Now, the political parties, like I said earlier, are personalized. And in fact, let me even put this to it's an inference I have been able to deduce from many of my interactions. One of the things that had made the ADC to be what it is today is because it had been kept strictly as a political party and not an electoral machine, not the electoral vehicle.
Special purpose vehicle for an election.
Special purpose vehicle. When I spoke with Wilson, the founding chairman of that political party, he said 4 political parties, including the APC, the CPC, the PDP, have come 4 times. He said political parties have come 4 times to take over that political institution from him. They have come with money, they have come with influence. He said Chief Obasanjo was part of the people who came and said, look, after an assessment, after due diligence, Chief Obasanjo said, no, this is the only political party in the country. We don't have such. So what it means is that of the 40 or so political parties we have in the country, only one can be conveniently referred to as a political party, run as a political party. What does that tell you? It tells you that all these people who are in charge of our institutions are also in charge of our political parties. That is why today we are already waiting for them in the ADC. They were already waiting for them. They wanted to form ADA. They threw spanner in the works, and everything came down. Then they appeared from another place, which is the ADC. When the ADC originally came, everything looked very smooth. Then, from nowhere, a Gombe Nonfiu Bala came up and said no, he did not resign, he did not do this and did not do that. But every evidence points to the fact that the National Working Committee of that party and all other institutions did what they were supposed to do. So where is the problem coming from? Is it from within the party, or is it something that has been engineered by INEC? We should look into all these things, ask questions properly. And now, where are we? We are left with a political party that is struggling to get its acts together, and one individual who is stoking the problem in that political party. So we have to look properly. We have to keep our eyes. Let's take it easy with our eyes so that we can see the nose, as the Yorubas will say. I'm making an allusion now, So it tells you that those who are still string puppeting the other institutions are also string puppeting the political parties. It's a cycle, and we are in what the scholars will refer to as the cul-de-sac. We are in a cul-de-sac in this matter.
Okay, just before we go, Sam, let me ask you this question. With elections often decided in courtrooms, are Nigerians gradually losing interest or maybe losing faith in the ballot?
If Nigerians are losing faith in our institutions?
In the ballot, I mean the elections generally.
Oh, yes. Oh. Look at it from 1999. The only time we had a positive outlook towards elections was during the era of Jonathan. INEC has consistently proven that it should not be trusted. The only time Nigerians trusted the Independent National Electoral Commission was during Jonathan. And after that time, since the advent, APC has been in government since 2015. It spent the first 8 years. Now it's already into finishing the second term tenure, which is another. They have spent 4 years of another possible 8 years. And look at the statistics. The electoral body has consistently shown that it cannot be trusted. The last straw for me that broke the camel's back was in 2023. When they came, they said IREV was going to do this. There was going to be instant transmission of the results and so on. And young people, young Nigerians who were about to vote for the first time and who were coming out to partake in the electoral process for the first time, trusted this process. They believed in what Mahmoud Yakubu and his lieutenants were saying. They went to London, gave assurances and so on and so forth. I remember first Tukoye, who would speak big English, gave assurances and so on. Mahmoud Yakubu himself. At the end of the day, what happened? The trust was betrayed. Now, Amopiton has come. Amopiton has come with his own baggage. A lot of fingers are pointed at him, some frivolous, some very serious issues. Why do you think people will put their trust now? They are confused, and INEC is not helping matters. Those who should help us are not helping us in any way. Everything is just lying in the hands of one particular institution, and now that institution is not living up to expectation. The preparatory actions, the prognosis of what they intend to do shows that the result will not be what many Nigerians would expect. At least do the best you can to conduct free and fair elections, and let's see how Nigerians are going to vote. But I don't think we are going to have this, and I don't think Nigerians have faith in INEC.
Okay, Sam Woko, we say a very big thank you for joining us on the show this morning. It has been
thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Now, as we wrap up today's big story, one thing is crystal clear. Democracy cannot stand on one leg. Strong institutions without strong parties create a system constantly in repair mode. Strong parties without strong institutions create a system vulnerable to abuse. Nigeria's democratic future depends on getting both right. The rules must be respected. The processes must be credible. And above all, the will of the people must remain central, not secondary. Because in the end, democracy is not just about winning elections. It is about sustaining trust. I'm Sam Sibalogo, and this has been The Big Story. Good morning Up next is Trend Watch.
And now to what's trending across the country, Nigeria. That's Trend Watch on this segment. We spotlight what's trending, what's making the rounds across the country. And of course, something of interest, I'm so sure everybody's waiting for this, or people are even expecting this to happen. 2027 elections is just about 10 months to come, and APC fixes May 15 for primaries, but the most important thing to note in this is sets presidential form at 100 million, 30 million naira for interest form, and then 70 for nomination form. So 100 million naira to go for it. So if Samson wants to contest for president in the country now, what you need is we need to gather up momentum to get money for you so you can pay. But let's look at the central feature of that timetable as scheduled by the party. 70 million naira for nomination, and then 30 million naira, like I said, for interest form, bringing the total cost to 100 million for president. Now, for governorship aspirant, they will pay 10 million naira for the expression of interest form and 40 million naira for the nomination form, totaling 50 million naira. The Senate aspirants will have to pay 3 million naira and 70 million naira, respectively, amounting to 20 million. So Senate 20 million, governorship 50 million, and the White House of Reps will be 10 million naira. For State House of Assembly seats, aspirants will pay 1 million naira for expression of interest and 5 million, making 15. Okay, totaling 6 million naira. Yes, 5 million and 1 million, totaling. So if you want to contest for House of Assembly, also at the state level from the APC, then you have to also pay 6 million naira. But a lot of persons asking the question, really, can youth really, like we said, we know that there's a bill that is called young, not too young to run, and that's a thing to discuss. But how many youth can really boast of getting 50 million naira, or should we say maybe 6 million naira for some positions in the country, Samson?
Well, when you say youth, you really have to be clear about youth that you are talking about. I think youth can afford to pay 100 million for the presidential ticket. It now depends on the kind of youth you are looking for.
Youth like
are you looking for, the youth? We are looking for the other youth. We have seen it happen in Nigeria where a 50-something-year-old happens to be the youth leader in a political party. And we have seen far worse. We've seen a man in Nigeria becoming, woman leader in a political party. It is still in this same country. So whatever it is that you see that has happened in Nigeria is not happening out of the blue. It's, it's as a result of the precedences we have set in the past. However, you see, I do not, I want to sit on the fence on how much it costs to get a form of some political parties in Nigeria, because at the end of the day, it's not really about the name of the political party, it's about your will. You have seen people win an election against the run of election. What I meant by that is the fact that everyone was moving towards one direction, and someone says, I'm going this direction, and people followed him because of his personality. So if you want to contest an election, you don't necessarily have to be a member of the APC or that of the PDP. You can be a member of Accord. You can be a member of APGA. You can be a member, as long as you have the credibility, the goodwill.
But your chances are high. That's the truth.
When you talk about chances, okay, if you have the goodwill, we have too many lazy politicians in Nigeria, and I'm not sorry to say this, okay? You want to rely heavily on the structure built by some people in a political party that is already in existence before you came. Yes, other parties are also existing, but why can't you do your own groundwork, grassroots mobilization, and also build your own structure. We have someone in Nigeria, as we speak, especially in Oyo State, who for one reason or the other was able to find his own structure. In fact, at the point when he moved to a political party, he moved into that political party with numbers. Okay, it's happening in Oyo State, and we are seeing it. So if you have, yes, so you might say you don't have access to the kind of resources because he has a radio station. Yes, but then you can also do your groundwork. You recruit people to help you build your own vanguard across all political, local governments and maybe wards in where you belong to in your constituency. That can be done. It's a process. Some people want to come from abroad in 1 week and then you want to get the ticket of APC as a political party. Have you forgotten that some people have been there 12, 15,
running
16
the
years
ward party structure
doing
level.
all of that? And you expect them to just bench them for you and then you come on board. And even if they do, you think those who are existing in that political party before you came, they will now succumb to all of that and work with you. It's never going to happen. Okay, you are going to just waste your time. So why not start from somewhere else? Build your own structure in your political party. Build your acceptability among the people. And when the election comes, you can only rig an election where the other person has not done too well. Okay? If you have done going here again, you want to go here, it's there. Then you can win an election. I mean, we have seen it happen before. Initially, people thought, oh, if you're already on the seat in Nigeria, even as a president or as a governor, nobody can unseat you. But we have seen people unseat sitting governors in Oyo State. Lamadishina did not win a re-election in Oyo State. So is Rashid Adewolu Ladoja, that Senator Rashid Adewolu Ladoja, who is now the Olubad of Ibadan. He did not win his re-election bid. Christopher Adebayo Alao Akala came. He did not win his re-election bid. How much more of anointing a candidate in a second time? So all that will happen only if you have the goodwill amongst the
credibility.
People. That is what you should strive first before you now start looking for how much a political party is selling their tickets. Do your homework, build acceptability among the people, and then see what will happen. But if you are now talking about, you see, the reason why APC, of course, I'm not advocating for the APC. Parties like APC, PDP, the big parties in Nigeria, the reason their forms will always be expensive is because they will have to prune down the numbers of people who are interested.
So that's one way to streamline. It's a biological
you don't want too many
process.
people. Because at the end of the day, if you say APC form to be president is 1 million, I will buy. I want to be president too. You can buy. And there are so many other people who will say, yes, I'm interested. Even if you cannot afford, somebody will say, we are buying this form for you. But in order to prune all of that down and not go through the process of screening maybe 1 million candidates, you have to do something. And that's one of the criteria being used. Of course, certification will also come to play, and then they will have to do all of that too.
Of course, let's just take a few comments to see maybe what Nigerians are just... yeah, of course. Presidential form, that's Jubril Gabriel, says presidential form for 100 million for person we won't come serve. We now sure say this democracy go work for this country because this thing will keep on happening and nothing we're going to do about it. That's what Jubril said.
He has his opinion, and everybody has, right to their opinions. But it's a convenient point to leave the show this morning. So thank you for being a part of the show so far. Do well to link up with us on all socials, and don't forget to subscribe to our Facebook and YouTube channels at Dominion Broadcast and Dominion Broadcast Television. Samson Balogun is my name. As I always say, keep being good out there, keep being safe. Join us again tomorrow for the same show. Bye for now.
And my name is Anulu Akpoedo. Thank you very much for joining us. See you again tomorrow, and bye for now.